Good evening. Welcome to Words on Whiskey, episode 2 of series 2. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Hope you're having a great week. And I'm very excited to have a couple of guests with us this week, both from Lambay Irish Whiskey Company. And they're going to give us a great insight into what their philosophy is, their branding, their products, and hopefully we'll get a chance to learn quite a bit about cognac, which of course is synonymous with Lambay Irish whiskey. So I'm delighted to bring in Sabine Sheehan.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
Hi,
Sabine.
David. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, that's a lovely background there you have.
I can't say now I was responsible for it, but it's nice to have the view.
Very good. Well, look, lovely to have you on the show again. And we've had you on the show before, but this is quite a special moment, and quite a lot has changed, I suppose, since the last time we spoke. But you're still global brand ambassador.
That's correct. Yes, and senior brand manager with Lambay Irish Whiskey. Yep.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we have the pleasure and the honor of having your master of maturation, also Yonael Bernard, and product manager. Good evening, Yonael.
Good evening. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you again. Nice to see you again. I know you're in France at the moment, obviously. Yes, yeah, very good. Well, I mean, your role is a double role, I suppose. You work with the House of Camus, the largest independent cognac producer, and you also are the master of maturation for Lambay Irish Whiskey and product developer and manager as well.
Yes, it's a symbiosis to match the best cask for the best finishing. That's the link. We select the best cask and we try to optimize the maturation either in Lambay Island, in Ireland. That's my goal, and the blending, of course.
Very good. Well, tell me, what introduced House of Camus, who are, as I said, synonymous with cognac, premium cognac, which is a very premium product, and what attracted you to enter into a partnership with the Bearings family and actually go ahead and get into the Irish whiskey business?
In fact, there is a main philosophy. It's a two big family. Cyril Camus meets Alexander Bering, and they collaborate together. They have a very nice relationship. And there was one goal, of course, was to make the best Irish whiskey in Ireland and in the world. And the second goal also was to protect the island as it is and to keep it the same natural way as we can see it now. And it was a shared point of view that Cyril Camus and Alexander Bering has together for Lambay Irish whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, I had the pleasure of visiting the island. It's not too far off the coast of Dublin. I think we were there at the official launch of Lambay Irish Whiskey. How long ago now was that, Sabine?
Oh, I think we did our pre-launch in 2019 and we officially launched in March 2018, Serge. Yeah.
So
a
lot has happened since then. Yeah, a lot has happened since then. And I know I'm sure it's been a difficult time, presumably for you, with obviously not being able to go and tour around and bring the product to new marketplaces. What have been the challenges for you over the last couple of years?
Well, quite rightly. I mean, traveling around the markets was where I guess I really garnered an awful lot of the ability to launch Lambay in international markets. And in 2019, I think I did 35 flights that year across the globe. So to stop for 2 years obviously had an impact in how we were going to reach people. So we had to do what everybody else did. Ultimately, we had to push it all online. We had to do virtual. We had to do Zoom. We had to really engage with people across many social networks and digital networks to try and cultivate still, the education part about our products, but at the same time, keeping our connections with our customers and our distributors. So yeah, that was a challenge because it's not a 9 to 5 then, you're not dealing with people in their markets. You're actually literally switching on from morning until night. If you're connecting, it's the Asia first in the morning, Russia midday, USA then in the afternoons, and Ireland and UK and Europe in between all of that. So there was a lot of I think I worked really hard over those 2 years to get the word out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big advantages, I suppose, for yourselves partnering with Camille, apart from the expertise in the maturation and the blending side of it, would be the great distribution that they would have, that House of Camus would have, particularly, I suppose, in Asia.
Yeah, for sure, because Camus are so established, particularly in the duty-free channel. They're a luxury cognac product. They have a very strong connection with duty-free going way back to the 50s. So naturally for us, Lambay whiskey was popping up on shelf space in Fiji, Bangkok, Vietnam, Thailand, really unusual Asian duty-free locations, and even Hainan in Shanghai and China. Like, there was great opportunities there for us, which of course we definitely felt the brunt of the recent pandemic. But Asia still reclaims its strength for us. We've just released a cask strength in China, and we're continuing to release cask strengths in Japan. And our single malt is always well received over there. So we've definitely, I think, curated a bespoke single malt consumer in Asia that we hope to grow.
Yeah, yeah, and cognac is globally a fantastically successful product, but in France itself, it's relatively, I won't say unknown, but it's not heavily consumed in France itself. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, 98% of the cognac is sold outside of France. Only 2% is sold in France, and in those 2%, I think more than 50% is drinking cognac itself. So that's it's not very well known in France. However, historically, it comes from the phylloxera crisis. The phylloxera crisis reduced a lot the quantity of vineyard in France and cognac also. And after that, the customers came from the grapes and the fruits eau de vie to the whiskey progressively. The World War I, World War II also increased this phenomenon, and there was less and less customers who comes to the cognac and to the fruits eau de vie in general, by the way. Fruits eau de vie in France is very less consumed nowadays.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, Yonael, and how you got into cognac, and then how you made the move to be involved with Lambay?
At the beginning, I am a master seller for cognac. That's the beginning. It's progressive. I was first for brandy, for liquor, and then I came to cognac, I would say almost 10 years ago. And it was just 4 years ago when I came to Lambay. Naturally, I was hired by Camus for this project, and the goal was to a little bit make the what we did for the cognac, to try to apply it as much as we can. Of course, there is limitation for the whiskey. So it's that's why we spoke a lot about blending in Lambay Irish whiskey. Because that's the art of blending we try to bring from the cognac. So it's a little bit, there's some few difference compared to what is usually done in whiskey in general.
Yeah, you couldn't tell us the fundamental difference between the maturation process of cognac and the maturation process of whiskey. What are the fundamental differences?
There is a lot. But let's talk about few things. First thing that you will see if you go in a cellar of cognac is that all the casks are horizontal. First thing. If you go in a cellar of whiskey, they are all vertical. Only this matter change a lot of fact. The fact that the casks are horizontal means that you will empty and fill them a lot of time. So if you empty and fill them a lot of time, it means that you will make a lot of blending. That's why in cognac you have this way of making blending during the aging. And it's what we try to do in the whiskey, but we can't do the same because in whiskey we store vertically. One thing that we will find in whiskey but not in cognac are the fact that we make a lot of finishing. The whiskey, an Irish whiskey, is well known for finishing. There is the first step of aging in bourbon cask, usually in bourbon cask, and after we give a hint of taste with a finishing in another part. For our part, it's more in the cognac style.
Yeah. Okay.
Another thing that just last matter, and after I stop because we could spoke about it for a full night. The nature of the cask. In a cognac cask, we use a lot of new oak. The oak is burned not is it just slightly heat, not burn. Sorry, it's not charred, but it's just slightly burned, and it's a French oak because we need a lot. We look for oxidation. We look for this kind of phenomenon. In whiskey, most of the time we use small cask at the beginning, and as you know, for bourbon, it will be more shared. That's the big difference, and you will give different taste.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is it mostly limousine oak?
Alors in cognac, it's more limousine oak, but in Camus cognac, we work a lot with oak from Tronchet because, in fact, you have two kinds of oak. You have big grain and small grain. When we spoke about limousine oak, it's big grain. It's big grain. When we spoke about Tronchet oak, it's small grain. Small grain give a little bit more taste, but a little bit less oxidation, but very little bit. Limousine oak is big grain, is more tannin, and the oxidation is almost the same as Tronchet oak. It's a little bit, the influence will be slightly different in terms of oxidation.
Okay.
We are using Tronchet oak because it gives more flavor, and the oxidation is more progressive. It's more natural. We can control it better, the oxidations.
Yeah, yeah. For those of us that don't know, and I've been lucky enough to visit you there in Camus in Cognac. So I have a few images that maybe you can talk us through, Yonael. So this is the family home, the Camus historic family home. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
This is Château Le Plessis. Château Le Plessis, it was a home which was bought by the grandfather of Cyril Camus. It's in the middle of Bordeaux, and it's own. Now, when we spoke about the Plessis was a kind of wall we have around the castle to protect the vineyard and this kind of things. Le Plessis was the castle, the house of the father of Cyril Camus, and it's a family house, family castle.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously cognac comes from grape. What's the particular variety of grape that is used, and what makes cognac's region so good for wine?
In fact, here also there's a lot of things to speak about. Actually, 96% of the area is made with a grape variety called Uni Blanc or Saint-Émilion des Charentes. It's because it was from Bordeaux. We use this grape variety because it's very acidic, it's very fruity, and it's quite resistant, again, as I said just before, to a phylloxera.
Okay.
There is also two grape variety which is quite used. Colombard and Folle Blanche. Colombard is very fruity. I will just spoke a little bit about Folle Blanche because Folle Blanche, historically, before 1900, was the most commonly used before Uni Blanc. The fact is, it is more sensitive. It is a little bit more difficult to have a good recovery, to have a good acidity. And as you know, and if you don't know, I told you, the acidity is very important for cognac. The wine of cognac, we will add no things for storage or for keeping in a good quality. Only the acidity will keep the wine as it is. And the acidity also allows some reaction during the distillations to create a lot of aroma. And in cognac, especially for Camus cognac, we look for the concentration of those aromas.
Right. Okay. And let me just go back here. Sorry. If we go here, obviously Camus and cognac in general is perceived as a highly luxurious product with huge uptake, particularly in Asia, where they see cognac. Is that a difficult sell for you, Sabine, convincing people that cognac and whiskey mix well, and even explaining what cognac is?
It's a good question. I think it depends who we're speaking to. So in Ireland, for example, where cognac isn't as, shall we say, well known, even explaining the difference between a brandy and a cognac, you're kind of starting at that stage. But ultimately, whiskey drinkers are keen spirit drinkers. They understand brown spirits a lot more than white spirits. And I think they show an appreciation for, the difference between what is distilled from the grape and then what is distilled from the grain. And while they are two very different mixes in our casks, they sublimely mix very well. And I think that's kind of our objective at Lambay Whiskey, is going to show how that can balance really well. And while there are other producers using different cask finishes and also cognac, of course, we're not the only ones. But what we dedicate ourselves to is the actual, I suppose, transparency from start to finish of where that cask comes from, what cognac was placed in it, what type of grape variant was in it. All of those variables are very important for us in order to strike a balance in our whiskey finishing. And that's not something everyone would endeavor to do because it's quite complex. So when I'm talking to people, for example, in Asia and Europe about cognac, they do know about it quite well. It's very much a kind of a signature serve digestif after dinner, especially in the cigar smoking arena, and where it's often used in that caliber of enjoyment. It's not something you would order in a bar as much as you would a whiskey, I think. But then again, in the US, cognac is super popular, and Camus are making great strides there. They've completely rebranded and modernized what was very kind of more, shall we say, conservative and luxurious, is now really tapping into that trendy cocktail market with bartenders, niche mixologists. So they are understanding that they have to cross that divide as well to reach a more modern consumer.
Yeah, I mean, it was very much part of the hip hop kind of rap group as well. It had taken off. But I mean, I suppose the big thing is that you do have control of that stage of the production of the cognac from start to finish. And the cognac that is used is not your standard cognac, for example. It's tailored to the requirements that will meet whiskey nicely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what makes it nice.
Yeah, this is definitely for you, Yonael.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well,
that's my baby. That's my place.
That's his baby.
Yes.
No, that's
well, let's see.
To be just more serious, but it is true, by the way. I like this place of a distillery is where everything begins. That's what we are looking is something very concentrated, especially for Camus. Camus is making cognac with lees. Our lees is just something, when you make fermentation, you have dyed yeast, and those dyed yeast has a lot of aroma. And which is important is Camus is looking for concentration in aroma for every of those cognac. So you have different eau de vie with different ABV, with different terroirs, from different vintage. And all of those will be very concentrated. And for us, in Lambay, what we need to use is something the most concentrate as possible. Because the more concentrate those eau de vie will be, with specific aroma from fruits, because cognac is made from grapes, so it will give some specific taste from fruits, is what we are looking for. Yeah. We'll use this kind of cognac to empty, of course, the cask, and after we'll use this cask. And the remaining cognac inside the cask, when it will blend with the whiskey, will give this hint of fruitiness, this hint of concentration from the cognac. It's very important to have this concentration because when you use only one cask, it has to be fresh, it has to be concentrated if you want to have the hint and if you want to have the abilities to make a blend. If it is not concentrated enough, then you have to make 100% of a cognac cask and you can't make a blend. You can't choose the kind of hint, the hint of taste you want to target. So that's very important for us. And these selections, we are lucky. We can go directly to a cellar of Camus to select the kind of eau de vie, or sometimes we can even create the eau de vie we want for our Lambay whiskey.
Okay. And these are the Olympic stills here on the right. Generally, they're quite small, and I think they're very heavily regulated in the size that they can be. Is it 250 liters?
That's funny because historically, I heard that for whiskey, the bigger the size, the smoother it is. But for cognac, the smaller the size, the more concentrated your cognac will be. So that's why in cognac, the pot still is limited, especially for a bon chauffe. But in Camus cognac, it's for bon chauffe and for first eating, because there is two eating in the cognac to make cognac, with a pot still of only 2,500 liters only, not more. And that's how
we are,
that's how we are doing the cognac. With two distillations, inside 2,500 liters. This is for Camus Cognac.
Yeah. I mean, for those of us that think that Irish whiskey is highly regulated, cognac is extremely highly regulated, even from the point of when you can distill, when you harvest, the size of the stills, how you blend, and so forth. It's extremely tightly regulated compared to Irish whiskey. And I'm sure, you know, coming from that strict background, it must be like a playground for you dealing with Irish whiskey, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's a lot of things sometimes, the cognac is amazing, but sometimes you can be a bit frustrated because you are limited in many things. You are limited in oak, you are limited in finishing, you are limited in how you distill, you are limited in a lot of things. So you have to find a way to create with this limitation. That's true that in Irish whiskey there is a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit more flexibility, and it makes it a little bit more fun sometimes to create specific aroma, exactly.
Yeah, great. Let's see now. So vatting is obviously a huge part of it, and I suppose this is gives a bit of an indication of the size of the vats that there. How big are the vats?
This is not the cask. It's where we make the blending. The cask in cognac is limited. I think the maximum size of cask is 400 liters. 400 for 50 liters. You can't make more. But here, what you have here is called a foudre. A foudre is a big barrels where, you know what I spoke about, the cask, which is horizontal, where the empty and the fill regularly. When we empty each cask, we make it in a bigger place where we blend it. And after we empty this big container, again to cask. And those kind of container is this, what you see on the picture. And you can see that there is a lot of big barrels because in cognac, all day is blending. All day is empty cask, filling cask, empty cask, filling cask. That's what people are doing. Not every day, but almost.
Yeah, I thought I had a picture there of the casks where they were racked horizontally, but I don't. But obviously, here's Lambay Island, and for those who aren't from Ireland and haven't had the pleasure of being able to visit, it's a stunning island, and the weather isn't always as pleasant as it looks in this photograph. But can you tell us a little bit about the island there, Sabine, and the bearings connection with it?
Sure. So Lambay Island is around 5 kilometres off the coast of Dublin City, our capital city here in Ireland. It's a 25-minute boat journey from Malahide to Lambay. The landmass itself was first discovered by the Danes back in the 8th century, so it's been around for a while. Originating from a volcanic shift, Lambay is, I suppose, made up of a very unique rock form called porphyry rock, as well as granite and basalts, all very significant to its volcanic history. And it has a natural spring on it called the Trinity Well Water Spring, so a natural water source within the island. The island's around 2.65 kilometres long by 375 wide. It's particularly big. It doesn't look so often, but when you're on the island itself, it is quite large. It has a unique microclimate, an abundance of wildlife, flora and fauna, where only 4 or 5 human beings live permanently. It's mostly made up of a herd of wallabies, birds, deer, excuse me, and of course then the usual domestic farm animals like sheep and chickens and the like. It's totally self-sustainable. There's no electricity on the island. All of the power is generated by wind or solar. And really, the island, while it was there long before the Bearings story only kind of takes place from around 1904, when Cecil and Maud Baring bought this island for the sum of just over £5,000 back in the day to escape the eyes of high society in New York, where they had once lived. So they bought this island in the early 1900s, and all that was on there was the ruins of this 16th century castle, and just literally, you know, nothing else. So they dedicated their life to building what you see here in this picture, this beautiful, refurbishing this old castle into what is now their domestic dwelling today. And in the picture there is Alexander Baring. He's now the current Lord Ravenstoke, who lives on the island. He's the 7th descendant from Cecil. And next to him, the man with the moustache and looking very French is, of course, Cyril Camus from Camus Cognac in France. And basically, they're both men of a similar heritage in terms of long-standing family history, both entrepreneurs, you know, both share a love of and a passion for the rare and things in life, and really putting all of their best achievements forward to sustain their histories for their generations to come. So these two men have come together to kind of create what they thought was an interesting concept of creating an Irish whiskey finished in cognac casks sourced from Camus, but on the island of Lambay. So this picture you're showing here really refers back to what Yonael was saying, the way the casks are lying, you know, on their sides. You can see the bunghole is up on the side with the lovely muslin cloth in it. And what I love about these casks when they arrive from France, Sergi, is that mark of quality is on them. There's that wax seal from Camus, you know, knowing that it's been you know, filled, it's been prepared, and it's just that mark of quality that stands since 1863. So we know we're getting the right casks for the right liquid we want. So the casks are in this room that is in the bonded warehouse that lies right by the seashore on the island. So yeah, there's a lot going on the island in terms of the day-to-day and family living there. They host private parties, they host corporate events. But what we have is an area dedicated to our whiskey casks. And that's where Yonael and I would be bringing visitors to the island when they can select casks if they want to purchase them or taste them, or, you know, generally just come and visit to see how we operate.
Yeah, so this is the sea room, and this room was dedicated to all your casks that you bring in.
Yeah.
I mean, not all your casks spend all their time, obviously, in the sea room, but the single casks certainly would, and some of the malt ones would as well for a period of time. Is that right?
Yeah, predominantly single malt casks are what's in this bonded warehouse. And of those, Yonael would have selected some remain as single cask strength single malts. And then some of those are single malts that we use to blend with our other whiskies, for example, in our small batch blender with our Irish malt. That's where we take liquid from it. But we always try and keep a stock of casks there to really watch how they're imbued by the environment and the microclimate in this room, because you can see it's literally a stone walled room, nothing fancy. It's very organic. It's very much open to the elements. Even the windows, those little small holes you can see on the side, they're open to the elements. So you're getting all of that natural sea air coming through the wall and the windows. So the casks that are placed closer to that sea wall would have naturally a higher salt content because they're closer to the sea. And then the casks that are closer to the door section where we open to walk in will probably have a lot more of the fruit notes, less of the salt. So what we have is this lovely choice of between salty and fruity, and how we can then extrapolate different taste blends from these casks.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly do pick it up on the nose and on the taste, the sea influence there. You certainly get a bit of a briny finish as well to some extent, and a bit touch of iodine, but not heavy. But yeah, it certainly does have an effect. But these are your two standard, if you like, releases at the moment. Well, with the exception of the latest one that we'll talk about. But you've got your blend and you've got your malt. Can you tell us a little bit about these and where they're available? And
so the small batch blend is your blue bottle there on the left of your screen, and that's our signature, our bottle. That's our flagship brand. It's a small batch blend, a mix of grain and malt whiskey. It's suitably elegant, floral, light, lovely characteristics for cocktails, mixed drinks, 40% ABV, triple distilled, and really that type of elegant blended Irish whiskey that you want to have in your glass. You know, retails for around €40, is available in most retailers around Ireland and Europe, as well as on our online shop. And that will always be our signature bottle. And then we move then up into the different areas in our portfolio. This single malt in the picture here is now sold out, only remains in the US, I believe, at the moment.
All right.
Okay. And we have replaced that with the grey bottle, Sergius, which is our blended malt, Irish malt whiskey. And that then, again, really defines that kind of briny, salty, iodine taste you were talking about there. And it's a 43% ABV whiskey, and that retails for around €50. So the new release we've just brought out last week is a new single malt, which is actually in effort to replace that single malt in that picture, because we had attracted a huge swathe of single malt drinkers with that bottle. It surprised us in selling out so quickly. So we knew we had to kind of come back with something new to these consumers.
Yeah. Well, let me just show the people at home what the new product is. So this is batch 1. And presumably there will be some differences between the different batches as they go along. But this is, I don't know if it's available in the stores yet, is it?
No, it's not available in Ireland yet. It's going to be exclusively launched at Whiskey Live in Dublin. So come to our stand 90. You'll find Yonael and I and our team, and we will be pouring and giving you a chance to sample it. It is available on our online shop. But in Ireland retail stores, it won't be landing until probably the beginning of June. So what I'm excited about, Sergius, is, it's a limited edition, 10,000 bottles only, single malt, triple distilled.
Yep.
Coming up from 40 to 43% ABV, because a lot of our single malt drinkers had said, I like that, but I really want to hear and taste it, what a 43% or a higher ABV would be with that cognac cask finish. And I think we've struck a chord there with that. So this whiskey is particularly different to our first single malt, whereas our first single malt was more in the fruity note, tropical notes of ripe banana and wood shavings and those beautiful kind of papaya notes to it. This one is really crossing the boundaries in terms of the taste profile, as we're trying to recruit single malt drinkers who are really interested in trying different taste profiles. So this particular single malt has much more of a herb note, tobacco, oak forward, a lot more woody. And you certainly get that on the nose. Feels dry on the palate.
More pronounced, I think, than the previous one. It's a stronger nose for sure.
Yes. And I think, Yonael, you could certainly add to this. There is a second fill cognac cask finish in this compared to the first single malt. And that was done with a distinctive reason why.
In fact, here we target directly the typicity. If you follow our range, we have a blend, which is a blend, the Irish malt, which is focused on different blend. And when we spoke about single malt, there was a typicity of one distillery. And when we make this single malt, my target was to reveal more and more the typicity of one specific distillery, one specific way of production. So in the number 1, the typicity that we wanted to target is something more spicy, more tobacco, more oaky, and something with a lot of deep in the throat. That's it. I enjoy. And indeed, yes, there is more cognac cash finish, first and second fill, to reach this longness in mouth.
So when you kind of bring in a higher concentration of oak and a second fill cognac cask finish, I think it gives a more robust complexity to the taste of this single malt compared to what would have been probably a more fruity, tropical single malt we released before. And I'm really curious to see what our consumers think about that and tell us what they think.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly get the tobacco notes on it now, and the deeper mahogany kind of notes on it, and also I think that the sea may have had a larger influence on this one than previous ones, if I'm not mistaken.
I do find a bit more salinity in this, Sergius. I do. I agree with you there.
Yeah. It's definitely, and I do like it, and it's actually it doesn't drink it drinks very easily as well. There's no burn on this whatsoever, and that's straight off without having had a sip before as well, which is quite unusual.
It's a young whiskey. I mean, we're talking it's an average between 4 and 5 years old. And I find even if because for some reason I had poured one when I was first tasting it, and I had let the whiskey just breathe for a little bit, a couple of maybe 5-6 minutes after I opened it, and just let the air, let it breathe a little bit. And it really did taste much more different to just first sipping it, And we advise enjoying this with, a dark chocolate, a cigar if you tend to smoke. And I know we shouldn't be saying that, but there is that Keen Cigar single malt niche group out there, and I wouldn't disappoint them by offering this.
Yeah, no, it's very viscous and very rich and very creamy as well, which is nice. And it does have a long finish, but it does make you mouth water as well, which is great. I really like this. So, and this is retailing for what, Sabine?
That's going to be coming to the market around €75 a bottle.
Okay, okay, but limited to 10,000 worldwide, is it?
Yeah, limited to 10,000, and mainly going to, and is pretty much already sold out in our markets. We've sold to Germany, France, UK, Ireland, of course, China, Japan, Israel. So batch 2 is already in production. So we need to get our skates on with that one. There seems to be a hunger for single malts out there, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, there's less citrusy notes in this and more earthy fruit in it, I think, than the previous one. Maybe dark chocolate and a bit of coffee note to it as well. Espresso coffee, I kind of get off. But yeah, very, very nice, and I'm sure it'll go down well. But I mean, all your single casks have done very well, Sabine.
Yeah, we've been fortunate because our single cask program was really more of a type of revenue builder as a new company for us, as a concept in 2018, and we really wanted to attract a particular buyer, maybe duty free, and that we launched our first single cask with Dubai duty free in 2019. And little did we know that, when we persuaded, the powers that be to let us bring out a single cask strength for the whiskey lover who's out there every day and enjoying their cask strengths. Why should we restrict it just to a buyer niche? And that's, I think, when it blew up, because all the whiskey fans out there who purchased our first cask strengths were like, wow, this is seriously good liquid. It's highly concentrated. There's only 400 bottles of each cask. And it just created huge PR for us, as well as the kudos for creating really good liquid. And I think Yonael himself was quite surprised, because we keep coming back to him saying, we need another cask. But, we're continuing to produce them. Originally, we'd only, I think, kept 20 aside, Yonael, is that correct?
It was a maximum 20. In fact, what's happened for the single cask is, it's horizontal, so we can test it, we can smell it, check when it is mature. So when there is a cask which is interesting, we can keep it for a single cask strength. So it was a maximum 20. After, it depends on the evolution of each cask. When there is a cask which evolves in a good way, we can keep it for a single cask strength. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Just a question there about the finishing. Obviously, you have control over the whole process. So the whiskey is finished in these cognac casks. Is it possible or allowed for cognac then to be finished in casks that have held whiskey, your own whiskey?
Now you comes to the limitation of flexibility in the cognac. No,
you can't do that.
No,
not in the technical file of the BNIC. Can we do that? No,
it can't be called.
Yeah, well, lots of people here saying they're dying to try this. Actually, it really is lovely. It's really warming and very, it's just viscous as well, and quite complex. So I keep on getting new flavors coming out of it. I'm getting hints of what tangerine skin almost, rather.
Oh wow, Sergius, I love that.
Yeah. But it's a long finish actually for
Yeah.
But obviously this is a sourced whiskey, and part of your role would be, I imagine, to go around and source the most suitable whiskey for your casks. What is it you try and identify in the liquid itself that you source that makes a good partnership with your casks?
That's also why what I was speaking about blending. We try to find a tailor-made blend between a whiskey which will be very compatible with the cognac cask we select. I try to look for a whiskey which is quite rich, vegetables, cereals, green, long in month, those kind of characteristics. Because I know that the cognac cask itself, I will target to have something more fruity, oaky, long in mouth with a lot of spice. And the two spice, by the way, between whiskey and cognac has to be complementary because it's not the same kind of spice you will find between cinnamon, pepper. Pepper is more in the whiskey, by the way, and cinnamon would be more in the cognac. So that's how it works, and which is also very important is the concentrations. As we as very concentrated cognac cask, we need to find the good concentration of whiskey. That's why it's a blend. We can't make 100%; it would be too much cognac, but we have to find something which will be which will fit with the cognac cask. So that's also the best. I would say the most important selection we had in our category is the Irish malt, because the Irish malt we work a lot on double distill, triple distill, and different kind of distillery to find a good blend, a good complementary aroma of different distillery. Single malt is more about epicity.
I have to say, the longer you leave this, the more the sea influence comes in, I think. You know,
you leave it for
it's interesting, but very nice. It's definitely unique. Obviously, there are challenges having the island and getting barrels out to the island, but there are rumors out there, Sabine, and you can confirm, deny, or whatever, that you may in fact be having your own distillery on the island.
Yes, it's. I know I've alluded to it before, and I've mentioned it, and it is becoming a real thing. These things take time, Sergius, as you know, and yes, we are. Our ambition is to begin building the micro distillery on Lambay Island, and in actual fact, it's not like we have to build the foundations of a building. We're literally going to bring our stills and our equipment into already an established building as part of the outbuildings of the castle grounds, which is perfect. So it's all in keeping and looking at with the entire environment that it's going to be placed in. So a micro distillery, yes, we would like to be able to distill our own island whiskey. I think Yonael is very much going to be the leader of that project, and we're obviously in the early stages of the COVID really hit us back because of supply and getting the equipment in and getting the necessary builds done. So yeah, this is something we're very, very excited about.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, do you have a kind of timeline as to when you'll be starting construction, or planning permission is through, or is it still early days?
Yes, well, we've done quite a lot of work with even Dundalk University on the eco and sustainability around this distillery, and what is our operating standard we want to use, what type of energy source we want to use, how are we going to deal with waste, what are the challenges we have regarding that before we even get the whiskey out of the still. So that's interesting. So we've worked a lot around energy. Our whole sustainability charter with Lambay is of course to be as green as possible. It suits the environment that we are in, and what we protect is an island that is a microclimate and a unique ecosystem. So we have to be very careful about what are the processes we're going to bring there when we come to production, and how are we going to move our waste, and what are we going to do with it. So this is part of a wider body of work that we've been putting a lot of research into. We've been Origin Green verified as an independent bottler, which was indeed a challenge in itself when you don't control your production. So
yes,
I think for all the independent bottlers out there who are trying to be Origin Green verified, I give you the best of luck, because I think originally this was formulated as a type of program for producers, but when you don't cover all of your production, you do face those other challenges of ensuring that your suppliers and those that you work with are screened to the standards that are expected as well. And what that has actually done for us is really prepared us in the path towards this micro distillery being the most efficient operating system we can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, well, you mentioned there the electricity is all self-generated, it's all self-sufficient. So if you like, from that point of view, sustainability is built into the design of this new distillery.
Absolutely. And when it can operate, I mean, you know, you can't expect somebody to go to work 9 to 5, hop on a boat and, you know, go to a distillery every day across the sea. So there's the operating challenges, of course. There's the seasonality to it. It'll probably be operating, I would imagine, Yonael, is it February to September, October, just because the winter months you just can't get out to the island. The weather is just too unpredictable. And so therefore, you know, we're looking at that, how that will operate during the day. I think we're talking about it literally just kind of chugging along at a certain limit of time each week over each month in the summer season.
Yeah. Tell me, how difficult is it to get sourced liquid and to get that consistency in delivery in both time and actual quality as well?
Yes, it's very difficult, by the way. But you have to look a lot for new distillery, new distillate to check for quality. We are fortunate because more and more the Irish whiskey, the Irish distillery is more and more reliable in terms of quality every year. One also asset we have in the whiskey compared to wine, for example, is the wine every year the quality will change a lot. But for the beer, the quality stay more consistent because the beer every year doesn't change too much, except if you change the process. But otherwise, the quality of the beer is almost every year the same. If I compare it to the cognac, yes, in every year you have a big change in quality. So that's why also the cognac is made with a lot of blend, because otherwise you will have every year you will have an XO, a VSOP, which will be totally different if you don't make this kind of blend for the cognac.
Yeah. Well, here I'm showing the slide of this whiskey here, obviously in the box, and it's a hamper that you have very generously donated, Sabine, for a prize to be given away in some sort of draw that we'll organise during the week. But that's that has the single malt, it has the blend, it has a nice few glasses and some presentation material there that is very unique. I like the box. It has the latitude and longitude on the box as well. So we'll be giving that out during the week. And also you've given us a number of bottles to be given out over the next couple of weeks on our show. So thank you very much for that. That was very generous of you. Look forward to. So somebody may get their hands on this before it's actually released.
Yeah, this could be a real this is a real present to give, I think, for us, thinking about Father's Day and that, and also just a big hello to all the guys and folks that have put comments here in the comments box. I'm sorry I haven't acknowledged you until now, but good evening and thank you for joining us. And yeah, this would be great if you entered and come on board. It's a real taster pack for Lambay. Grab your whiskey buddy. There's 2 glasses, a hip flask. You can take the box up onto a hill somewhere and ponder on life while you sip through this portfolio of whiskey. And in it is our small batch blend, our original single malt, our cask strength, and our Irish malt. And then, of course, you have the new release here in the Reserve Cask Series bottle. You've got a branded hip flask as well. And it comes in this really bespoke Lambay branded box. So everything around it is about recycling. And as you know, this is what we want to do. So we wish you the best of luck. And best of luck to anybody who wins it.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this. It's not something that you can go and buy off the shelf. It is very much something that could become a collector's piece, but it's something nice to have and hopefully enjoyed as well, because the whiskey is really, really good. I am enjoying it now. And, it's actually quite difficult to find something different now that stands out, amongst the huge variety of whiskies that are out there. And I think the C note certainly makes a big difference, and obviously the cognac finish has a huge influence. In terms of tours to the island, Sabine, is that open? Is it possible to go and visit the island and do tours?
Yeah. Regarding tours to the island, I have to be quite careful how I term this, because it's not like a hop on, hop off, city sightseeing tour to Lambay. That's not what we're offering, purely because we have the challenge of the sea and we rely on boat service to bring people over. However, we have partnered with John Calley from Whiskey Island Tours, who I'm sure most people know very well. And what that means is that through him, you can book groups to visit. Hi, John Burke from Spain. Hola. And You can book group tours to visit for groups of 12, and that would include then an architectural walking tour of the castle with a member of the Baring family. And then you're invited to a masterclass with Lambay whiskey and visit to the sea cask room. So the whole experience is around 3 hours long, and that operates from May until September. And all details are on our website or on whiskeyisland.ie.
Okay, and David is asking the valid question: how do we enter the competition? So we're putting information on how you enter the competition on our social media. So Irish Whiskey Mag on Facebook and Irish Whiskey Mag on Twitter, and we'll organise that. Hopefully, people have been paying attention. We might ask a question around what we've been talking about. But Sabine, obviously, it's been a challenging couple of years, and the future, I think, is opening up slowly. Obviously, Russia would be a challenge, I imagine, at the moment. But what are the new products that you're looking at releasing and going forward?
Well, in actual fact, Sergius, I mean, Russia and Ukraine were probably our two biggest markets for growth, which I'm sure a lot of whiskey brands are feeling the pinch at the moment regarding those markets. And hopefully, who knows what the future will bring. But we've had to then reconsider what our offerings are in general and who we're focusing. So we've actually reduced the amount of SKUs per brand. So we've kind of removed 50 CLs. We're kind of removing gift packs. We're kind of really streamlining where we're placing our product in these key markets. So the new product development that we're working on is a really highly exciting age statement whiskey that's going to come out at the end of this year, please God. This actual single malt was delayed, should have been released in November last year. So you just don't know what variables you come against in the supply chain, in the logistics chain, which I'm sure everybody can relate to as well. So we're hopeful that at the end of this year we'll have our wonderful age statement prestige whiskey. We've just finished another single cask strength release, 6688, which went out to France and online. We've just worked on another cask release for China, and we will be beginning batch 2 single malt reserve cask series for the spring next year. So we have a few little bottles in the pipeline, but obviously we want to continue driving the awareness for our main flagship brand, our small batch blend, and our blended Irish malt, which is certainly good value for anybody who wants to try Lambay for the first time. Yeah,
certainly. Well, look, I'm really impressed with this one, and I enjoy the blend as well. But this one is really, in my eyes, a notch above it. But I know that I think in all the distributors, the producers are having difficulty sourcing glassware, sourcing boxes, sourcing labels, even. Hopefully that will ease off now over the next couple of years. Any further ambitions into the future then, as where you see Lambay going?
Well, I think we just have to really establish ourselves as a more dominant player in the Irish market, because it's still relatively small for us, and it's where main turf and competition is in terms of awareness. The UK continues to be an ever-growing market for us and a challenge as well. And then, we want to break down a little bit further through Europe in the Benelux regions. Portugal and Spain have just opened up for us as well as opportunities. And then the wider regions of Eastern Europe as well. So US becomes another opportunity for us, hopefully at the end of September, October this year, where I suppose our market reach certainly stalled due to COVID. And we've had to realign with our teams over there. And we set up our own distribution company, Lambay Whiskey America, last year. So that's just taking a little bit of time to get through all the logistics and the legalities to get us up and running again. But I'm excited to see how we can then re-enter the US market, because we've got a lot of fans over there. Yeah,
brilliant. And tell me, if somebody does want to purchase a bottle, they're all available on your website, is it?
Yeah, shop.lambaywhiskey.com.
Shop.lambaywhiskey.com. Okay. And you mentioned you're taking part at Whiskey Live, and obviously it's great to be getting back out there and meeting the people. So you mentioned something there that I thought was interesting, because there's a lot of brands out there that they're completely export driven, 100%. There's in fact, some of them have no focus on Ireland at all. how is important is it for you that you do have a strong presence in Ireland?
Well, I think it's basically because Lambay Island has had such a presence with Ireland anyway, in terms of its history.
Yeah,
Like it's, you know, we're really proud of our North County Dublin roots, and our community out there continue to surprise me. Like 75% of our online traffic is from Ireland, and
right.
65% of that is from North County Dublin, and it's astounding.
Yeah,
And the rate of repurchase that we're seeing from our Irish community is invaluable to us, and we doff our caps to that, because there are brands that would only wish to have that kind of loyalty. And I think there is a deep resonance with people in and along the east coast of Dublin and above, because Lambay, I suppose, generationally has been some way historically in their family for a long time. And when they're thinking about that gift for their father, or or their loved one, they want to support local, which is great. And I think we need to do more of that anyway, to support our local brands and give them that leg up that they need.
yeah. I think the sustainability element as well can't be underestimated. I think it's becoming so topical now, and to see companies actually really starting to focus now on the sustainability part
Yeah,
is important. And I think you've done that from day one,
yeah, yeah.
and getting the Origin Green sign is a great achievement, especially as a non-producer who it must be
Producer,
difficult
yeah,
to do.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
sweat that one out. But
yeah,
even actually just in terms of where we're going with our sustainability program is, the label on the bottle of that single malt you're drinking from is made from recycled fruit peels. A lot more producers are doing
really.
it. So, all of our box is 100% recyclable. We've replaced all of our plastic in our packaging. And that's just something for a small company like us that it is expensive, but we believe we have to do it in order to be true to our values.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's no plastic at all on this,
No,
so which is great.
there's zero plastic. And
Yeah,
that's just how we hope to go forward, Sergius. We have to be realistic and real to our values at the same time.
yeah. Well, look, for a small team and a small brand at the moment, you're punching well above your weight, and your reach is really fantastic to see. And it is a great product and something very different. So congratulations on that. Just to give World Whiskey Club a shout out, I know you're contributing to their tasting that is happening next Wednesday, and in the Harcourt, the Odeon. The Odeon bar. So I believe some samples are coming that are going to go
Yeah,
up towards John's Club there, and that should be an interesting tasting of new makes from a variety of different distilleries and producers. So I'll be interested to see what you provide for that,
yeah,
Sabine.
we're
So
super excited. And a shout out to John. Definitely, this is great to see World Whiskey Club coming back to life after a dormant period, and where many of their fans and members are really looking forward to getting back out. And the social aspect of drinking whiskey and talking about it is really, really good. It's
yeah,
something special that we have in Ireland, no doubt. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, Lambay Whiskey is going to be offering a sample of our what we would call a signature cask strength. And it's a real opportunity for you to learn about our cask program, taste our cask strength, and taste something that nobody else would have had the opportunity to try. And I think that's what makes it a kind of little bit special for people to enjoy.
yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been fascinating. I hope people got an understanding of the cognac process as well, and because obviously it is synonymous with what you do. You have nailed your cross, if you like, to cognac to some element. I mean, is that a restriction or an opportunity for you, Sabine? Obviously, cognac isn't that well understood and becoming more popular, I think. But does that give you a tighter brand focus, being able to do that?
I think it's a good question. I've been asked it many times as other brands are diversifying with loads of different other cask finishes. But we've always kind of pinned our collar to this post from the beginning by saying we want to be the leader in the emerging crafts whiskey sector, but owning the cognac cask finishing style. That if we do it well, we do it the best we can, without changing things up too much, without complicating, the consumer mindset or understanding of us. Just do what we do and do it well, and it'll always be cognac cask finished. And it's up to the whiskey lover to decide whether they like it or not.
In fact, we can't be an expert everywhere. We have to choose where we can select the best finishing, and we can select the best finishing in our cognac cask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, look, I mean, I enjoy the cognac as well, and I like I said, I've had the pleasure of being down there, and I have my own blended cognac up there sitting on the back proudly displayed. So, well, look, thank you very much for your time. We look forward to seeing you in person. So we're in stand 33, and we'll put details of the competition up, and you'll organise sending out that package, and
absolutely,
and we'll organise sending out the other gift packs as well over the next while. So thank you for your time. It's a pleasure as always speaking to you both. I always learn so much, and Sabine, you know, you've been such a force for the brand. I think, you know, you're working tirelessly to really bring that brand out, and I know you've worked really hard and do a fantastic job for getting the reach that you do out there, and you've always been very helpful. So thank you very much. And Yonael, thank you very much as well for joining us. I know it's an hour later there, so we probably kept you a little bit, but have a good night and sláinte.
Thank you, Sergius. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed that. You know, cognac isn't a big drink in Ireland, but it's certainly an interesting one and gives a fascinating finish. And the sea finish really makes a difference on these releases. So thanks again to them for joining us, and the prize details will be given on our social media. And look forward to seeing you soon. Actually, next week we're off. We're actually attending the World Whiskey Club's new cask and new make tasting. So we will see you the following week, which is the week before Whiskey Live. And if anybody's coming to Whiskey Live, do drop by and see us. We're on stand 33. And take care. And we'll make this podcast available over the next couple of days. Thank you.